Hey everyruby! I've got a little bit of an update today regarding the rise of Nevdora. I realized there's been a suspicious lack of any Rubyx related updates on my Instagram page and YouTube channel lately. I usually keep you Rubies informed in some way or another, at least weekly, but I haven't done so let this serve as an update. First of all, I am not cancelling the series, so no worries about that. I've been working on this project consistently for over 6 years now, and believe me, I am not throwing it away like that. One thing I always do, however, is looking for ways to improve the story, and that's what this update is all about. Recently, aside from going through some rather busy weeks, which I explained in the caption of my performance of Breathe No More at the music school, I've been working on a change in the story for some things that have been bothering me for a while now, and that I felt needed to be changed before I moved on. These changes pertain to two things: consistency and continuity. Lately, it has become extremely apparent to me that there have been some things in the story that weren't really adding up. And with the recent shift of the story to a different platform, I felt like now would be as good a time as any to make sure that everything is consistent and makes for an immersive experience into the realm of magic. So let's go over them. Recently, I've noticed a sheer disconnect between the direction of the story proper and most of the names in the main cast. I simply feel like they do not reflect the theme or the realm of magic as much as secondary or even side characters do, so I am currently revising them. As some of you may know, The Rise of Nevdora started out as a roleplay turned passion project, and it has gone through many a revision, a couple of rewrites, and even a complete reboot from 2019 onward. And one thing I failed to update along were the names of the main characters. Most of the supporting cast was named or renamed after the reboot, and I didn't do the same for my main cast. With the entire reboot going on and with the shift in direction from contemporary fantasy to more of an epic fantasy kind of style, I kind of feel to actually update the names of the characters alongside that change. This is not a decision I'm taking lightly, as I realize it has a huge impact on the story and it might throw off some of you Rubies who have become invested in these characters, or those of you who have been following the development for this story for quite a while. And I have considered simply not changing them at all. But there are two problems in that which I simply can't ignore. Back when I was just writing out the events of the roleplay in book form, the story wasn't nearly as diverse in character designs as you would expect from a story about an ensemble cast from various magical planets. And that has a lot to do with my lack of experience as a character designer back in the day. Mind you, I was 14 when I started out and I did not have any prior experience drawing or writing in this way. Since then, I've done a lot of redesigns, and I think the last step in solidifying this change would be to update the names along with these changes. Second issue is simply one of copyright and avoiding confusion between characters with similar names. Right now, I am figuring out exactly which names I want to change and what I want to change them to. And it's a long and delicate process to find exactly the right names for the characters, making sure that the names seem right for the fantasy setting and the world that the characters originate from, while also being respectful to the cultures I take inspiration from for their planets. The characters have been with me for so long and I hold them so dear. I want to do right by them, their original creators, and those who might find themselves represented by these characters through reading the story. Though I am nowhere near done with the entire cast, at the end of this video I will reveal the new names for Violet, Alex and Chloe respectively, as these are characters who appear in the first couple of chapters. Going over the first few chapters again, I've noticed a plot hole concerning Violet, which could easily be fixed with a couple of tweaks in some of her lines and in lines said about her. Originally, I wrote that Violet was going to attend Arthyrell Academy in the same exact year as Chloe was, that being the first year, that of determination. This was a small error on my part, considering Violet isn't supposed to be the same age as Chloe is, but rather a couple years older, setting her apart from her little sister by 14 years. As fairies in my story only give birth in around 15-year intervals at best, and often with longer gaps in between due to their incredibly long lifespan of 700 to 1500 years, depending on how well they develop their magical regeneration ability. In an earlier draft, Violet and Hazel were only 4 years apart, because this particular part of the world building hadn't been fully fleshed out by then. And I didn't catch the fact that I hadn't reworked their age dynamic earlier up until I reread this part and suddenly realized I was contradicting my own world building. In any case, I rewrote a couple of phrases concerning Violet, and everything should check out now. The main takeaway from this change is that she is no longer a first-year student, which made no sense in the first place considering how she is written as being more experienced than some of the second-year students I wrote, And considering Chloe refers to her as being a fairy already in Chapter 2, while referring to herself as only a student, and rather she is now resuming her attendance at Arthyrell Academy as a major fairy aiming to become an ethereal one. Aside from that, further changes are minimal, just word exchanges and sentence restructuring to increase readability of the first arc altogether, as well as simple changes to enhance consistency between chapters. Before I close this video off with the updated names I promised, I'd like to go over some quick points that relate to the future of the story itself. I will be reformatting the story on Wattpad to be more true to its counterpart on Tapas. I've really been enjoying the shorter updates over there, and I would like for everything to align across different platforms. Currently, the only platforms that remotely line up with each other are my DeviantArt and YouTube, and my Instagram and Wattpad pages respectively, which is making it nearly impossible to keep track of everything and to keep updating consistently. This will happen at the same time as the name change, so I won't have to go over everything twice. Unfortunately, this also means that I won't be releasing any new chapter parts on Wattpad for a while, and will take some of them offline so I can go over everything without any added pressure. On the flip side though, as I currently have another full year of updates ahead on Tapas, Chapter 3 will also be rescheduled to release twice a month instead of once, same as Chapter 2. Along the same lines of trying to gain more consistency across platforms, I will be aiming to realign the speed paints on my YouTube channel with the release schedule on Tapas, so hopefully Chapter 4 and its speed paints can run consecutively. So now, for the big news that I started this update with, the name changes. Violet is going to be renamed Anthea Frostthorn. I felt like her name didn't really add up with her role and arc in the story, so renaming her Anthea seemed more appropriate. The name Anthea stems from the Greek word for flower and is very similar to the name for the goddess of swamps and floral wraps, Antheia, which I feel is more appropriate for a nature-inspired fairy than Violet was. The name being Greek also ties into the inspiration for Sylvia as a planet, which is a mixture of elven customs and designs, but also worldly aspects such as Dutch, Spanish and Greek cultures, like the Sylvian Council resembling the council in ancient Athens. Alex is simply going to stay Alex, but it's now short for their full name Alexan. I actually really like the name Alex for them, as I feel it encapsulates their character and the more modernized air that Brightwood gives off, and it makes for a nice pun later down in the story, which I won't spoil now. But I also wanted their name to have a fantasy aspect to it, which is why I'm lengthening it a tad to have it blend in with the world building and names of other cast members more. Yes, I'm changing my protagonist too. In part because I have been asked a number of times now whether Chloe is a self-insert character, considering I'm also named Chloe, which I'll be the first to admit isn't exactly untrue, considering that during the roleplay phase she very much was. But I've moved her away from that since and gave her her own backstory, personality traits and character arc, and she's pretty much unrecognizable from the first version I wrote of her. I feel like changing her name will solidify this change and will set her apart as her own character entirely. Furthermore, a lot of the traits that used to be hers have now been given to different characters to make the characters more rounded as a whole and to put a bit of myself in every character I write. And a lot of the backstory parts that were first woven into her story have now transferred onto different characters. Along with Sylvian naming customs, her last name remains unchanged, and I will very much still be using her last name as my writer's tag. Chloe's name will be Erin Frostthorn. The rest of the characters will have to wait a while before I confirm their new names. As I said before, I want to do this the right way, and I don't want to rush the name changes. That said, I hope you rubies are as thrilled about the change as I am, or can at least stand the new names if it's not really up your alley. I will make another update video with the remaining name changes during the release of Chapter 3. Keep living the magic, Chloe Frostthorn.